Who's that digging in my window? Baby, please pass the extendo. Hey yo, they tryna take my G's and my CeeLo. Two gold flows at your head, don't be a hero. I said.
Disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Welcome back. I'm going to try to make this video as quick as possible, but I doubt that I can. And also, I'm in a rush. I keep looking out the window because my friend is supposed to take me to a new beach, finally. And we planned this out last night, so I can't be late from going downstairs, meeting her at a certain time, because I know her and she will talk shit the whole day to me. So let's get into this topic. Anyway, as you know, I have been in Cape Town for a while, and I've been traveling here since the year before the pandemic. So the pandemic was 2020. So I've been traveling back and forth to Cape Town since 2019, 6 years. So that's almost been a decade. That's been a while. So what made me choose South Africa? Just based on some similarities the US and South Africa had in the past, along with you don't need a visa. You don't need to learn another language if you speak English. So it was a lot of pluses of me visiting this country. And when I first got here, I knew immediately I had to plan another vacation while already on vacation to revisit Cape Town. And ever since, I've been returning to Cape Town at least once a year for an extended stay. So with revisiting Cape Town all these times, I have came up with 7 harsh truths. And we're going to start off with the townships. If you come to Cape Town, be aware there is exploitation behind some of these township tours. So you have to be careful of who you get your tours with, because some companies profit from these tours without benefiting the locals. What do I mean? For example, if you take an Uber or if you take a Bolt to get you from point A to point B, you might come across some guy that might say, if you're willing to take a tour, I offer a tour, I have a company. And it might not be a true company. It might just be somebody that knows someone and they're going to take you to that person. And my friend had told me most of the time, if that happens, they're not South African. They're from somewhere else. And they might know someone in a township, and they're going to take you to that township. And basically what that person is going to do is just go there and chat with that person, show you where that person lives. And that is going to consist of your tour right there. So if you're going to come and see a real tour, research ethical township tours that reinvest in the community of the township that you go to. Do your research. You know, people have smartphones and not so smart these days. Research tours that offer local guides. So when you go on a tour in one of these townships, the money that you spend of buying something to drink or you might eat on a tour is going into that community. It's not going all in the pocket of your tour guide. So be aware of this, especially if you plan to go to one of these townships and you're going to do some type of video and you're already exploiting them by naming the video hood tours or this is the slum or it's a fucked up area. So at least give some type of money to that community that you're visiting, whether it's to the local tour guide and you're buying local things and all the money is going to that community versus someone who is not South African. And moving right along, and speaking of someone who is not South African, the next one or the next topic could be xenophobia. Xenophobia, for people who may not know what it is, what people who are not South African that I've met here, what they've called it is racism or racist. They say that South Africans are racist. And I usually hear this when I take an Uber somewhere and the driver hears my accent. They notice that I'm not South African. And they kind of give me like a heads up or a warning that racism is here. And they call it xenophobia. But always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how can a black person be racist towards another black person? Do they mean the word prejudice? Because everybody has some type of prejudice, but racist and you're both the same color and the same continent, I don't get that part. but that's what usually they say if they're not from South Africa. And when I ask them where they're from, usually I get the Congo, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, just different countries within the continent. When I dig deeper and ask my South African friends, they have a different point of view. Most of them say it's because of the crime that they add on to the crime that's already existing in the country, along with stealing jobs. So what do I mean by this? Well, if you're a illegal immigrant and you're in South Africa, how can you earn money? You can't, because you can't get a legal job. Therefore, you have to turn to crime to earn a living. So the crime that all countries have, there's no such thing as a perfect country. I always say that in my videos. So there is crime in South Africa, but now it gets added on top with crime coming from illegals. Then you'll find some people say, oh, these niggas from different African countries, they come here and they steal our jobs. And if you think about it, it's true. A lot of countries do this. What countries do is, especially when it comes to capitalism, a lot of companies and stores, they hire illegal immigrants for just different reasons. And the reasons usually benefit or help the company or store, and not really the country or the citizens of that country. A good example with this is, if you're American, you know that not a lot, but you have some farmers in the US, they like hiring Mexican or immigrant workers because it's cheap labor. You can pay these illegal immigrants lower wages. These illegal immigrants, they can't complain. If they work overtime, you don't have to pay them overtime pay. They're easier to control. You know, you could basically say whatever you want to them. What they're going to do? They're going to go to the police. So this is the reason why they say that they're stealing our jobs. And this can just go to any country. You have a lot of countries that people just don't like illegal immigrants. Not the ones that go through the process of becoming legal and they make a honest living and they contribute to paying taxes in that country that they're living in. Not those people. I'm talking about the illegal people. And if you think about it, if I had to go through a whole process of becoming legal and getting a job as a teacher or whatever, and I had to go through this long process, and somebody else comes along and they just skip all of that and they're making money illegal, I would be kind of pissed off about that. And most countries that you visit, or I have visited, the same thing happens, but they don't call it xenophobia. They don't call it racist. I found the perfect clip what we was just discussing a moment ago. Check this out right here.
Call the police.
Fuck off!
Max, please call the police. Can you please move out of the area, sir?
You fuck off! It's before 9 o'clock in the fucking
I've just
morning.
asked you to leave
You're
out of
not
the
even
area.
fucking
This is
supposed to be
dangerous.
here. Fuck off! Fucking provocateur.
Can you move, please?
Why don't you stop provoking people?
I'm not provoking.
You
I'm asking you to
fucking
get out of
You're
this
provoking
area.
everybody standing here with your fucking white skin, fucking being a white fucking South African, with
And?
your fucking East European
And?
fucking cronies.
And?
Where's the fucking jobs
Yeah.
for the English fucking boys? Come in here, undercutting all our fucking workforce. Fuck off back to South Africa, you fucking cheapskate.
Never gonna cast me out. And my mother, she just said, there is no way one of these backwoods redneck motherfuckers is getting my daughter pregnant. And she told my father, we're moving. You can come with us or not, but we're getting out of here. And I remember seeing them fight in the driveway. That was the only
I don't know. I see that more of prejudice or even a stereotype. But just like I mentioned, a lot of countries, they go through this. Not to say it's right or wrong, but a lot of countries don't like immigrants who are in their country illegally, especially when it comes to work, because like the guy said in the video, you're undercutting them, which means that you undercut the citizens who's looking for work, because now you have immigrants who will work under the table quietly for cash. They're not paying taxes and they're taking the jobs that the citizens will work for. But these companies, these stores choose to hire sometimes, not all the time, these immigrants because they can pay them less. So if you're South African and you have not traveled yet outside of your country, you're not alone. A lot of countries I travel to, they don't like immigrants as well. Just from traveling, I came to my own conclusion that all these countries are fucked up in one way or another. Whether it's my country, your country, or another country, all these countries, like I mentioned, in some way or form, they're fucked up. And it all boils down to how much of you could take the fucked upness in that particular country. Because if you go somewhere else, you just go into another country's fucked upness. That's how it goes. That's my conclusion. Moving right along. One of the most critical ones is unemployment in Cape Town, just in South Africa in general. But as you know, it is also a worldwide problem. And the video you're seeing here is a city in South Africa called Durban, where hundreds of people are lined up to drop off their resumes. My personal view, my personal opinion of why unemployment in South Africa and Cape Town and other cities within the country is so high is based on just not from reading books before I started visiting South Africa, but just based on from what I see is structural inequality. Even if you pick up your cell phone or if you're on your laptop, you just type in the country with the highest inequality, I'm pretty sure South Africa is going to pop up on that list, at least being one or two. And what should be on that list also as well should be Brazil. But that's a whole different video. Or if you're not South African, you might be lost and be like, what the fuck is inequality? What do you mean? I mean going back in time of apartheid, which created a deep gap when it comes to crucial things like education, which brings skills, and also limiting their employment opportunities through apartheid, which boils down to limiting a person's capabilities. You cannot come to this hospital. You cannot drink from this water fountain. You're black. You drink water over there. You cannot work here, but you can work over there. You telling people when, what, and how they can do things. And it's not like apartheid lasted for like a couple of days or just a few years. It lasted a long time. So from when it started to the time when it ended, what happened during that time is now you have a lot of people that have skills that are mismatched. They lack the technical and vocational skills needed in today's society, today's modern society. Along with, you have a significant part of the population, not in just South Africa, but in the continent of Africa alone, that is young. So when you saw that previous video, it was a lot of young people in line applying with their resumes in hope to find a job. And I'm seeing this also happening in the continent of South America. They have a very young population that's coming up, opposed to the continents of Europe and North America. The birth rates there are becoming lower because of unemployment. People are not able to just provide themselves with the basic necessities. So what they do not want to have kids. So you have a decline in birth rates and also in a younger generation. But we have to exclude Mexico, because even though Mexico, they speak Spanish, is still included part of North America. But I'm pretty sure their birth rates is much higher than the US and Canada. So yeah, unemployment is very high in South Africa along with the rest of the world. And back home in the US, it seems like it's kind of pretty much they're screwed there, because automation and technology is ramping up. And to move right along, what comes after unemployment? The next thing is homelessness. When I first came to South Africa, to Cape Town, I probably didn't notice it at that time, but over the time, I've noticed more people homeless in the CBD area. And I'm pretty sure, hopefully, what's happening in the government here in South Africa is they doing some type of reskilling or upskilling their citizens. I mean, governments and private sectors should do some type of like investment training, like the program to help people transition to new type of roles and new type of jobs, especially in tech, because we all know that is the future. And while in some countries homelessness is because of no job opportunities back home in the US, I think it's because of that too, but also I think it's a mixture of also drugs and just a person's mind is not right due to the drugs. This is a video I found right here of Hollywood, and this is in the state of California, and it's other states that the same thing is happening. So yeah, South Africa has a high unemployment rate along with other African countries, but I'm pretty sure it's worse in other countries in Africa than it is here in South Africa. So what happens when you're South African and you finally do find a job that pays well enough that now you can finally buy a home? But as you look around, the places that were once at a reasonable cost now cost more. And you just walk around and you start talking to people saying good morning or good afternoon or whatever, and you find out the people you're talking to, they don't sound like you. You just got hit with gentrification, which is pushing out local people brought by foreign investors. So now the longtime residents become displaced and they have to find another area within town to buy a home. You have some countries that allow foreigners to buy property and land, and you have other countries that do not allow foreigners to invest in property or land in that particular country because most likely they believe that in the future it will be to a point that most of the land and the property will be owned by foreigners and not the citizens of that country. And that's because they won't be able to afford to live there. So gentrification is here in South Africa, and a lot of people, they just keep it in the dark, especially if you're a foreigner. They don't really talk about it, but you can see it, especially here in Cape Town. Now what you will see is a lot of videos talking about, oh, how beautiful South Africa is, everybody's lovely, this is my favorite place. But come on, cut the shit. Let's be for real. It's only beautiful and the people's only beautiful and this is only your favorite place because of your currency. If the currency was at a equal rate, our asses would be back in Europe or back in the US. Be for real. So it's lovely because your currency is more than theirs. Remember I said all countries have some type of fucked upness. So if our currency is on a equal rate, how much of the fucked upness could you take as a foreigner if your currency was now at a equal rate as the South African rand? Guaranteed your ass would be right back on the airplane going back to the Netherlands, London, the US, wherever the fuck you come from. You will be going back there in an instant, snap of the finger. So yeah, I get it. It's all about having a lower cost of living at a higher standard due to your currency is more than the country you're currently living in. But just keep in mind that do cause gentrification. Now let's move on. Now let's talk about crime. Now crime is everywhere. Crime is something you can't escape. The only thing that changes when you go from country to country is the type of crimes. So yeah, it's crime in South Africa, but again, the places that I have traveled and have seen, I think it's more countries out there that's way worse than here in South Africa when it comes to crime and the type of crimes.
Without objection, so ordered.
Data from Texas shows that U.S. born
Without objection, so ordered. We put it in the record. You have what?
First clip looks like a group of men is stealing some type of piping, I guess for money to sell it. And the second clip looks like a armored truck got robbed and they blew it up. I'm guessing is money inside, of course. That is terrible. But still, in other countries, I think it's more fucked up crimes. One of my favorite countries in South America, Brazil, which is much bigger as a country than South Africa, has more crime and more wicked type of crimes when it comes to the citizens against the police. I don't really see that much of that happening here in South Africa, where the people that live in townships actually fight the police, as in with guns, grenades. It's almost like a mini war, citizens versus the police. And I know it's gangs here in Cape Town, as well as back home in the U.S., but gangs in the U.S. and the gangs here in Cape Town or in South Africa in general is nothing compared to what you're seeing on the screen right now. It says gangs shoot down Brazil police chopper, and this happened in 2009. So this happened a year after my first visit to Brazil. I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't even hear about it at the time. I didn't know how much of a bad country when it comes to crime that I was revisiting all these years. Until, I got more into the culture, started reading more, started searching more on the internet for things that's happening in the country, and just started listening around to what people had to say when it came to crime, safety, and what's going on currently in that country, that I came to a realization that shit, Brazil, when it comes to crime, it's more crime there than it is in my own country. And it's so fucked up there in Brazil because just like here in South Africa and many other countries, it's no fucking jobs. And the skills that the people did have, you can't really use them in today's society because of fucking robotics, automation, computers. So when my friends here in South Africa, they talk about crime, in the back of my mind, I'm just telling myself, you just don't know. Again, look above, look at the screen. 2009, gang shoots down helicopter. Then again, look, 2016, police helicopter crashes after being shot at. Let me give you a little example of a recent shooting. This is either the beginning of this year or the end towards last year of yet another helicopter being taken down. Check this out.
Vai tomar na chota. Cena de filme. Derrubaram o helicóptero.
So when it comes to crime, how often do you see this happen in Cape Town or any other parts of South Africa? I think not. So yes, it's crime here in South Africa, but what are we comparing the crime to? Because there's also crime happening right now in Congo, and nobody talks about that. And right now, Congo is way worse when it comes to crime than South Africa. They're going through a lot right now in Congo. But that's a whole different topic, whole different video. And we all know that either the US, Russia, Europe, even China has their hands in some of these rebel groups fighting one another all over resources. We need more iPhone 15s and 16 pluses and all this other crap. But back to here in Cape Town, South Africa, crime is definitely here. But also within my travels, there's crime in other countries as well. Especially the one that you're seeing right now on your screen, which is Brazil, and nobody seems to talk about the crime that happens there on a daily basis. And it's not like Brazil is a closed society, like, for example, like a China or something, that you don't know what's going on within their country. They're very open, and you get to see what people post of what's currently happening in their country, and it's a lot of bad shit. So overall, keep your cell phone in your front pocket, and when you go to any country, expect the unexpected and be aware of your surroundings. So let's move right along. Since we were talking about crime, let's talk about police. And with this situation, this happened about 2 weeks ago. Me and my friend was down on Long Street, the party district. And what we saw was an American talking back to the police. Evidently, I guess he was drunk or high. And my friend, she had a joke. She said, "You're not going to help your fellow American." And the reason we know that this person was American just by the accent, the way he was talking. And I had to ask her, "Do you have crack here in South Africa?" Because evidently this nigga, he's on something. Because the way he was going back and forth with the cop, it was like a flashback as if he was back home in the U.S. So with this one, if you're coming from the U.S. or just anywhere in general, just be aware. You can't do the old, well, under Section 281, Law 68, I can re-enter this club even though I had a fight and I'm drunk and high off a little bit of crack. You cannot tell me as an American what I can and can't do. Because don't forget, you're a visitor, you're a foreigner. But for him, hey, it worked. And he was able to get back into that club. But I guess that was his lucky night because not always something like that could happen. Especially if you go to different countries. If you keep trying that, sooner or later it's going to be one police either beat your ass or even take it to the next level and pop your ass.
Caralho.
And that's Brazil. The police told the guy, sai, which means move, get out the way, let the tractor come through and do his job. The guy didn't listen, so he popped his ass. A few inches more, could have shot his dick off. It was so close. This is why you'll never see me in jail in another country. You're not going to see me on your local news station of something happened to me. You're not going to need a GoFundMe my ass back to the U.S. And I do understand in whatever country I'm in, since I'm not a citizen, my form of identification will always be my passport. Therefore, it will always be on me at all times because you have to expect the unexpected. I never know when an officer might want to see identification. Also for other reasons. Another story, one time I was in Brazil. I have a lot of stories about Brazil. But I was there buying a lot of groceries for my apartment. And when the clerk looked at my credit card and turned it over, of course, it said Bank of America. In her mind, I was Brazilian. She didn't know that I wasn't Brazilian. So after speaking English to this fool, she would not let me purchase the groceries until I showed my passport. So I had to walk back across the street, get my passport, come back. And she was shocked to know that I wasn't Brazilian. But since she wasn't a police or any type of authority, I talked a little bit shit to her in Portuguese. And I walked up out of there. When you travel, it's a different country, different laws, and different culture. But going back with the police incident that happened in Cape Town on Long Street, my friend has said maybe he had slipped the cop some money because he kept shaking the guy's hand, the cop's hand, just crazy amount of times. That was kind of weird, but he was able to get back into the club. Speaking of my friend, let me get the hell out of here. Go ahead and post this video. So the next video you shall see, I will be at this new beach she's taking me to. And if you made it this far, that means you watched the video to its entirety. I appreciate that. Go ahead and like the video. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. And until next time, peace out.